Alright guys, and welcome back. We have the newest selection pack coming on Friday, which brings us Vaalmonica, also Fire King, Snake Eyes, new stuff for Sky Striker, and then also, where is the last one we will be getting, or where is it? The new Pendulum stuff, indicated by the Exceed the Pendulum. I also have the Centurion here, because I think this will come in the next pack, and I just want to place it on here, because it already got a hit in the form of the Forbidden-ment of the King Calamity, which is obviously the main play of this deck. We will have to see how good this will be then in Master Duel, but let's start with the tier list here. We have top tier 1.5, tier 0, tier 3 rogue-ish, and then the new category, which is just the category for all of our decks. We have Kashtiba, still a strong deck, has endured a lot of hits to this point, and in my opinion is a solid tier 2 strategy. Will become better when there are a lot of decks that heavily utilize the graveyard. Obviously, Snake Eyes and Fire King Snake Eyes, they do this, which is also why this is not a bad deck right now, but there are definitely meta environments where it could be better. We have Labyrinth, which in my opinion, is it a top tier deck or is it 1.5? I will keep it in 1.5 for now. It's one of the best decks in my opinion, because it's so flexible. You can put in whatever traps you need against whatever deck is the strongest at the current moment. For example, against Snake Eyes, you would just put in the Daruma Karma Cannons. You also always have the ability to search for your traps that you need via your Lady by activating any other traps. So it's very flexible. It's a what they call toolbox deck, which means that you have a lot of tools in the box, and then you can choose whatever tool you need for the specific situation, which is why Labyrinth is still very nice and will remain very strong for a long time if they do not hit it in any major way, which I don't think they will. They have hit it a lot to this point, but I think this will stay as the main trap deck in the format, and a fair trap deck, which you can definitely win against. And there are strong plays that they can do, for example, the big Welcome Labyrinth on your turn, or on their first turn, ripping a card out of your hand. But if you have a single Ash, that can basically seal the game already. So I think it's a very, very fair deck. We have Unreese, which in my opinion is a tier 3 rogue deck, basically operating as Kashtiba operates. You can put Dimensional Fissures in here, you can put Dimension Shifter in here. The idea is the same, but this deck is just way worse, because the hits that it has endured here in Master Duel are just way too hard. We have Rescue Ace, which definitely is one of the top tier decks and will become even more top tier with the upcoming new ban list and the new pack, because Snake Eyes will get a hit. Rescue Ace didn't really, and then we will see a Fire King. I will place these decks in a moment here when we come to them, but I think Rescue Ace will benefit from this by being played even more to my hatred, I could say, because I really disenjoy this deck, which isn't even a word. And there is Telemans having become stronger, you could argue, by the addition of the Horus cards. Then again, you could argue that they didn't really make Telemans stronger, because there are also a lot of lists that do not run the Horus cards. They are quite nice in the deck, because you can make a zombie vampire starting new Telement plays. Telement definitely not a dead deck, but not as strong as other decks on this list. Will be here in the tier 2 category in my opinion, but I guess more on the bottom. But we will see this in a moment when we have all the tier 2s available. We have Branded Espia, which I would definitely place here in 1.5. I would place this over Labyrinth, I guess. We might put this up in the top tier category, but I think when we compare this to the top decks that will land up on here, it's just a bit worse in my opinion. It still has all the plays available. Being Branded Fusion at 1 and all the other cards at 1 and 2 doesn't really hurt the deck. We have seen this. You can still get to your main plays via a lot of different ways. You can still make Gimmick Puppet, which is a very, very strong going first play. So yeah, Branded is still there. I like it. It's one of the coolest and most complicated decks that is always very interesting to play, because it has a lot of what they call dynamic replayability, which means that every game looks a bit different, which is what Hearthstone, for example, works a lot with, by having a lot of random elements in their game, which we don't have here in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. We have Pearly, which I also would say is one of the best decks. I would put this over Branded in my personal opinion, just because we don't have a best of 3 format, we don't have a side deck, so we can't have specific answers for the Pearly Noir in our deck, which she is not very hard to make. It's very consistent for this deck to make the boss monster, and then your opponent needs a definite answer. At the moment, there's an answer in the Snake Eyes deck, mostly running Kurigara, as you always say in the stream. So this makes it a bit weaker, but I think there will be formats where this will once again be a very, very dominant deck when there is not an inbuilt answer in lists like Snake Eyes. We have Unchained, which unfortunately suffers a bit from getting max seed and can then not do as much. I think this will end up in my tier list at least on the top of tier 2, I would guess, but we will have to see once all the other tier 2 stuff decks are in. We have Exosister, Pax here, which can also run Dimension Shifter, a very strong deck if you ask me. I think this is a bit stronger than Kashtira in my personal opinion. These graveyard shifter decks are always strong, especially in the current meta. They are not that bad. As I already said, there will be better metas for this, but having the ability to play Dimension Shifter is very nice, and this deck can also banish a lot of other stuff, giving you the ability, for example, to banish your opponent's original Sinful Spoils or their Flame Birch Dragon, or for example, they can also banish from the graveyard the Promethean Princess. Very, very strong. We have Dragon Link, unfortunately a rogue deck right now. Might be a bit better than Flaunderies, but yeah, this was a strong one a few months ago, but the hits were quite destructive for this deck, so yeah, we are not really seeing it at the top anymore here. We have Vanadium Realm Heart, a very nice combo deck, which in my opinion will be somewhere here in the tier 2 category. I would personally put it under Telements, I guess, and under all of these other decks as of right now, because it is very strong if you can get your combo through, but being interrupted is quite hard and harsh for the deck. And going second, it can put up a lot of damage onto the field, but it's not easy to play into a board with Vanadium. And just to remind you, this is always talking about the average player taking this deck to the ladder, not the big professional who plays only this deck. Obviously, we have people like Arbomode who only play Despia and dominate the tournament scene, but this is just not your average player, right? I'm talking about the average player building himself a Vanadium deck and then playing it. We could also say he plays it until Master 1. I would still call this the average Vanadium player, and then maybe changes to another deck for the next season, right? This is what I'm talking about, the average player experience. We have Infernoble Knights, which I have not really seen on the ladder in a while. Also a very strong combo deck. We have to think about whether I would say this is better than is Vanadium or not. In my opinion, it is not, because going second, it is worse, I think. Though going first, I think it can play through more hand traps than can Vanadium. All in all, I would still put it here. It's very nice that they have this spell and trap negate thing from the boss monster. This is very unique. And then we have another combo deck here, Rika, which I think also belongs somewhere here in the combo deck category, but is even weaker going second, unfortunately. Very, very hard to make anything happen with this deck going second. So definitely the worst of these three combo decks here. So these are the, or have we any more? Let me quickly check. Yeah, we have some more decks that you could call combo decks, I guess. We have Runic, which, yeah, I mean, this can't really be put in the raw category because it can just play some cards that are a bit annoying, floodgates that can win the game on its own, but the Runic engine has taken such a hard hit with the Fountain to 1 and other important pieces that it's really not a big player in this current environment. I would definitely put this under these combo decks right here. We have Sword Soul, which in my opinion is still quite a good deck. You have your Protoss that you can play. I would personally put this because I think it's way more consistent than is Tier Elements. I would personally put this over Kashtira, but not really over Exosister. For some reason, this Sword Soul thingy here is very glitchy. Okay, I put it somewhere like here, but you could definitely argue about this. This is a very easy deck to play, easy to learn, easy to master, and has a very solid game plan that still works quite well. We have the Pendulum, which will get all the new Arc stuff, very important for the Endymion, but also for the Pendulum Magician stuff here. I think this was and is a solid tier 2 deck. This is also a very combo-heavy deck, but in my opinion, one that can even more easily be interrupted. I would put it over Rika, but not over Infernoble Knights. But this remains to be seen how good this will be here. We always have to keep in mind that we have the Heavy Metal Foe Link monster still available, which is banned in OCG and TCG. Always put the Infinite Impermanence on the Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. This is basically in every Pendulum deck one of the core cards. We have Mefmec. You know what I think of Mefmec. Mefmec is super, super strong. I would say this is even stronger than is Labyrinth. The combo is still intact. We have Diameter at 1, which does not really matter. Circular is still at 3. It's very easy to get to your Circular, and if you get to your Circular, your entire combo line is extremely strong. Obviously, it's quite bad against stuff like Branded with the Bestials or these shifter strategies here, but they are not that represented on the ladder, so that's not a big problem. You can take this deck and hit Master 1 pretty easily. And then this is a big surprise for me. I wasn't expecting Cinnamon to be that great, but in my opinion, this is actually a solid 1.5 deck. Definitely the weakest of all the ones I will put in here. I guess this is not arguable, at least for me, but very strong. Can make a nice board going first, can also play into a board nice with this Atlantis OTK line being available to this deck going second. The only weakness being that it needs his normal summon and then the body to make plays happen, so if you remove the body then it can be quite hard, but I'm very surprised as of how strong this deck actually is. We have the Chimera here, which in my opinion is just like a tier 2 deck. This will get support in the future, which will make it better. I personally would put it you also mix it with the Branded Lesbia engine. I would put it over Vanadium, to be honest. I don't think this is a bad deck. I just do not enjoy the playstyle. By the way, I am noticing that I have forgotten Memento, so we will talk about Memento in a moment here, as I already also played this deck. So I will put Branded Chimera here, or if you are talking like pure Chimera, then I would put it even lower, but if you combine it with the Branded engine, then it's somewhere around here. We have Vanquish Soul, which I think is still a very good deck. I would put it here at the top of tier 2 somewhere. I think this is better than Exosister, but in my opinion, Unchained is a bit better than is Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul also has the ability to play the Dimension Shifter, which is always nice. The engine is quite strong, though it is a grind game deck, and in the current meta environment, we are not really playing the grind game. We are playing Snake Eyes, Can You Break My Board, and then end of the game. So there will definitely be better metas for Vanquish Soul. We have the Hero deck, which definitely is not bad, but I would personally... do we still put this in tiers? I would say this is the best deck in tier 3. A Rogue, once again, talking about the average player experience, I know that you can take this to another level with more experienced players. So we have Snake Eyes, which will get another hit here. This is definitely still a top tier deck, but I think it will be worse than Rescue Ace. Rescue Ace can also function without the Snake Eye engine, and Rescue Ace is just so strong with Triple Emergency and the Airlifter being at 3, and also having the ability to play really greatly into Max C. This is what I think differentiates these decks here. This is not that great into Max C, but the Rescue Ace actually is. You can just go for your Turbulence and then give him one draw special summon, and then set all of your traps and spells, and basically survive from there. This is very important in our Maxi environment, and I think at the moment this is worse than is Rescue Ace. We are talking post-ban list, post the new pack. We will get the new Fire King stuff. Obviously, Fire King will be combined with Snake Eyes to make Fire King Snake Eyes. If we are talking pure Fire King, which you can also play, then I think we are talking about a solid tier 2 deck, which would land somewhere here in the middle of the tier 2 category, if you ask me. If we are talking Fire King Snake Eyes, then I think this is the best new deck of the format here. This is also better into Maxi than is Snake Eyes. Not as great as Rescue Ace is, but we get the full support, basically also the Volcanics here, and this can basically replace all the cards that were lost by Snake Eyes. You can just replace these lost cards that Snake Eyes has lost through the ban list with the Fire King engine. It's very strong. We will have this deck being the most dominant in the meta, especially because everyone will be playing it, or everyone, not really everyone, but everyone who plays Snake Eyes, who played Snake Eyes before will play Fire King Snake Eyes, I guess, to have a bit of a different playstyle in comparison to Snake Eyes that we have now, or had now in the meta for a very long time, and will still have in the meta afterwards, don't get me wrong here. The new Sky Striker cards, will they make a big difference? I think Sky Striker will, with these cards, there are only a few that are very impactful, still be a solid lower tier 2 category. I would put them below Vanadium here. I think Vanadium is the better one. Obviously a nice going second strategy, but nothing to write home about, but then again, not bad. Also, there you will need to be a good pilot for this deck to be very effective. This is also something to keep in mind. So a good player can definitely take this to 1.5, whereas a really bad player would probably only be in the tier 3 row category. We have Vaalmonica, which definitely needs more support to be very impactful. I see this somewhere here at the bottom of tier 2. Definitely not over the Pendulum stuff, and also not over Rika, but maybe over Runic here. A solid deck somewhat, but definitely needs a third support wave to be more impactful. Then we have Centurion, which I would have placed higher, definitely higher, because because it can make King Calamity very easily. So if we could make King Calamity with Centurion, I would definitely have placed this on the top of 1.5, maybe even top tier, because that is such an dominant game skip or turn skip for the opponent. It's basically a game skip, because turn skip means you lose the game, because if your opponent gets basically another free turn, you can't really win. So this would have been here in the top tier, but now with the King Calamity banned, I'm not even sure what this deck wants to achieve and what the game plan is. This is really a deck that was built around King Calamity. You only see this in the TCG with King Calamity, so I don't know, we will have to see this, but I think without the King Calamity, this is at best a low tier 2, top tier 3 deck in my opinion. And if we want to talk, by the way, guys, obviously let me know in the comments what you think of my tier list here. If you like my videos, please consider subscribe, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell. This helps me out a lot. So talking about Memento as the last deck, I don't have an icon here. Sorry for that. But Memento, I've played this a lot. A very, very fun deck, but also very linear, can be interrupted quite easily, and makes very strong end board that you can not really break if you don't have specific answers, like an evenly matched, for example. Yeah, it's not a bad deck. I would call it a combo deck. Will definitely be stronger with the third support wave, so that's something to keep in mind. I would place Memento here at the bottom of the tier 2 category, not before Vanadium. I think Vanadium is better, but before Sky Striker, I would place it at this point here, and I think I am happy with the overall placement I did here personally. We have this fire matter, it's just how it is. We will have to see how long this will stay with us here. Unfortunately, Salamangreat not being part of the fire matter. This is the bad fire deck, you could say. You can also play Salamangreat Snake Eyes, by the way, recent deck from YCS. But yeah, let me know in the comments what do you think of this ban list. I think we will have the fire meta for quite a time now, for a few months, when we will also get the Fiendsmith stuff, Fiendsmith engine that I will talk about in the future, making Snake Eyes stronger again. So I guess get used to it, but this is the tier list for now, after the new packet, after the new ban list.